It was supposed to be a safe space, but it became a nightmare. 10 women are now suing a tea app after a catastrophic data breach exposed their private information, including photos, chat logos, and location data, all reportedly leaked onto 4chan. Tea app was officially launched in 2023, known as Tea Dating Advice, billed itself as a woman-only dating safe app. Think Yelp, but for dates. Verified women could review men they had gone out with, make them with red or green flags, even run background checks. The mission? Simple. Women should never have to compromise their safety while dating. And millions of women believed in that mission. But summer 2025, Tea wasn't just another dating app. It topped Apple's charts, hailed as a revolutionary tool in the post-Me Too era. But now that same app is facing serious legal fire after the private data of some of its valuable users ended up in one of the darkest corners of the internet. What went wrong? How could a so-called sanctuary for women become the source of such a massive violation of trust? And what does this breach say about the state of digital privacy, cybersecurity, and exploitation of women online? On July 25th, 2025, Tea publicly confirmed what users had feared. A massive security breach had compromised the app's core systems. Hackers had gained unauthorized access to Tea's storage and stole roughly 72,000 user images. Among them were 13,000 verification photos, including selfies and even photos of government-issued IDs. The kind users were required to upload to confirm their identity to join the platform. But the breach went far deeper. In addition to those ID photos, hackers accessed 59,000 other images, including content shared in private messages, comment threads, and even dating profiles. These weren't just profile pics. They included deeply personal content, candid snapshots, conversations, moments users believed were protected within the app's walled garden. According to reports first published by 404 Media, the stolen files were dumped onto 4chan, a site notorious for leaking explicit material and doxing campaigns. Users on the message board were seen openly gloating as they browsed through the exposed images, some allegedly attempting to identify the women in the pictures. Perhaps most disturbing, some of the leaked verification images included full names, home addresses, and faces, all captured in scans of driver's licenses and passports. These weren't random usernames or blurred faces. These were real women who had uploaded that information under the impression that it was secure, and who are now forced to reckon with the terrifying possibility of being identified, stalked, or harassed. Tea claimed that no emails, phone numbers were compromised in the attack, a detail meant to offer some relief. But for the affected users, the damage was already done. Their faces, their IDs, their conversations exposed on an anonymous message board with zero accountability. It wasn't just a privacy failure. For many, it felt like a betrayal. As soon as the leak hit 4chan, the reaction was as violent as it was predictable. Users quickly began circulating direct links to the stolen database, boosting of access to over 70,000 images from T. One 4chan poster bragged about uploading the entire archive, including selfies, photo IDs, and private DMS. Another created an interactive map that plotted users' locations based on leaked address data and taunted viewers to enjoy. That map alone is chilling. It didn't just violate privacy, it turned people's homes into targets. Suddenly, thousands of women weren't just exposed online, they were locatable. The Atlantic reported that the data spread rapidly, not only across 4chan, but also onto Reddit, Telegram, and X. Faces and ID scans were reposted without consent, ripped from the app and recontextualized into a digital witch hunt. What followed was an explosion of harassment. Some users mocked the victims' appearances, calling them walls and other misogynistic slurs. Others took it further, tying real names to neighborhoods, mocking them as desperate or hysterical for using a woman-only app in the first place. According to the Atlantic and Captain Compliance, both Reddit and 4chan users described the leak as karma, a quick form of revenge for daring to create a platform centered around female safety. What started as a privacy breach rapidly mutated into a digital hate campaign, one where the very tools T provided to protect women were weaponized against them. Their own verification photos became ammunition. Their addresses became punchlines, and their attempt to date more safely became the basis for public humiliation. The Washington Post summed it up painfully. After the breach, people used leaked data to create maps, post photos, and attach cruel insults, amplifying each woman's vulnerability. And in a world where online threats too often spill into the real one, many of these users are now facing fear, silence, and in some cases, the need to physically relocate. As the images and harassment spread, legal action came swiftly. By early August 2025, less than 2 weeks after the breach was announced, at least 5 federal class action lawsuits had been filed against T dating advice. Most were quickly consolidated into a single case in the Northern District of California. The plaintiffs, dozens of women who say they were harmed and endangered by the app they once trusted. Among them is a single mother who was in the process of fleeing an abusive partner when her ID photo and the selfies were leaked. Another plaintiff from Northern California says she used the T to warn others about an alleged local rapist, only to now find her own identity exposed. Many of the women are listed in the court documents simply as John Doe to protect them from further harm. But their stories speak volumes. The lawsuits paint a damning picture of the Apple's handling of sensitive user data. Plaintiffs allege that T was careless in its security, storing highly sensitive information, including government IDs and personal photos, in unencrypted or easily exploitable way. They argue this violated not only the privacy laws, but also the company's own promises. As one complaint bluntly states, an app promoted as a sanctuary for women became the very threat it promised to protect against. In court filings, one plaintiff says the breach left her with persistent anxiety and growing fears of identity theft. Her attorney, Scott Cole, a data breach specialist, told the Washington Post that the violation wasn't just technical, it was deeply personal. The level of trust these women placed in it was violated, Cole said. He added that private conversations meant to protect one another were now public to the very people they were aimed at. For many survivors of harassment or abuse, this betrayal cuts especially deep. The lawsuit don't just seek monetary damages. They call for accountability. They aim to force a reckoning not just with the Apple's leadership, but with a tech culture that has too often treated women's safety as an afterthought. With many plaintiffs and the T itself based in California, legal experts say the California Consumer Privacy Act, or CCPA, will play the major role in the lawsuit. Under the CCPA, California residents have a private right of action if their non-encrypted personal data is breached due to inadequate security, and they don't need to prove actual financial loss to sue. Instead, victims can seek statutory damages ranging from $100 to $750 per incident per person. Now, multiply that by thousands of affected users, and you are looking at potential damages in the millions. If courts find that T failed to take responsible security precautions, the financial liability could be massive. But CCPA isn't the only legal tool in play. Plaintiffs may also bring common law claims like intrusion upon seclusion, the idea that someone has unlawfully invaded your private life, or public disclosure of private facts, given how the data was leaked. These kinds of claims focus on the dignity and emotional harm caused when deeply personal information is exposed to the public without consent. But here is the broader problem. There is still no comprehensive national data privacy law in the US. Unlike the European Union's GDPR or some stronger state level laws, federal protections remain patchy. As the Washington Post put it brutally, this breach highlights that the United States still doesn't have a comprehensive data privacy law, leaving millions of app users with limited piecemeal protections. Some have pointed to the Federal Trade Communication or even Apple's App Store policies as possible enforcement paths. Apple technically requires that apps implement robust security measures, and the FTC can take action against companies that mislead users about privacy. But so far, enforcement has been slow, inconsistent, and reactive. The T-app remained available for download long after the breach, raising questions about accountability, not just from T, but from the platforms that enabled it. As more details about the breach surfaced, cyber professionals began weighing in, and the consensus was dawning. Dave Miester of Checkpoint Software told the Washington Post that T's failure was unfortunately predictable. In his words, Many viral apps look good on the front end, but lack security infrastructure on the back end. T, he said, appears to have skipped building security from day one. Miester noted that hackers' ability to access such sensitive information so easily suggests that the app's defenses were minimal, if they existed at all. The security there wasn't adequate and probably hadn't been considered, he concluded. Chester Wisniewski of Sophos echoed that point, warning that smaller startups like T often don't even know how to securely store identity documents, let alone encrypt user data across servers. In the race to go viral, basic protections were left behind. But beyond technical missteps, the breach has sparked serious concern from experts who attract digital violence, especially against women. Michael Patrol of Moonshot, a firm that monitors online extremism, said forums like 4chan already attract thousands of violent threats against women every month. Now, with names, photos, and addresses leaked, those threats can turn into action. Unsafe apps pose an outsized risk to women and other vulnerable groups, Patrol warned. When private data escapes into the wild, users aren't just embarrassed, they are at risk of physical harm. Women who signed up for T seeking protection are now facing the exact opposite. Being hunted online, attacked offline, and targeted by abusers who know exactly where to find them. Legal professionals are watching closely. 2. Privacy attorneys say this case could set new precedents, especially under California's strict privacy laws. Veteran Action Class lawyer Scott Phil noted that companies maintaining outdated or legacy systems like a T allegedly did could be open to serious negligence claims under consumer protection laws. Similar breaches in the past, like those at Ashley Madison or Grindr, ended with massive payouts, company overhauls, and long-term reputational damage. And now, with the relatively new California Privacy Protection Agency, CPPA, fully operational, enforcement might not stop at civil lawsuits. Regulators could levy fines or launch their own investigations into how T failed to protect its users. The fallout from the T branch has rippled far beyond just one app. For many, it has ignited a deeper crisis of trust, particularly in platforms marketed as safe spaces for women. T promised a verified women-only environment where users could protect one another and flag dangerous behavior. But instead of feeling shielded, thousands of users were left exposed, their identities hijacked and distributed by the very forces they are trying to avoid. The Atlantic put it plainly. Even with T's flaws, women had good reasons for wanting something like a T in the first place. Apps that center women's safety exist for a reason, and the demand is real. But the breach had confirmed what the many feared, that even women-only apps can become tools of harm if not designed with security as a first principle. In the wake of the breach, women online have voiced outrage, frustration, and grief, not just over the invasion itself, but over what it symbolizes. Another broken promise in a digital world that too often fails to protect them. Advocates are also pushing for a privacy by design approach, where security isn't an afterthought, but a fundamental feature, especially for apps serving vulnerable communities. Without stronger oversight or federal privacy regulation, many fear that only companies caught in scandal like T will make meaningful changes. As the Washington Post pointed out, we hand over sensitive data to our apps daily, yet have little recourse when it all goes wrong. That imbalance, they argue, it has to change. The legal battle against T is still unfolding, with multiple lawsuits now consolidated. In federal courts, the outcome could determine not just whether the company pays damages, but whether it will be forced to fundamentally change how it handles users' data. But whatever the verdict, one message is already clear. Even apps built in the name of women's safety can become dangerous if they handle security as optional. This breach didn't just leak files, it shattered trust and exposed how easily tech hype can eclipse real-world harm. As one attorney put it, the trust these women put in T was violated. Going forward, the real question is how and if our systems will hold companies accountable when that trust is broken.